All right, so here we go with the checkup for Algebra 1, PACE 1104. And we're on page 30. This is the last checkup of the book. And we'll move on into the review. So this is going over the Pythagorean theorem again, which is exactly what we went over in the last video. And that was the only section that was being done before the checkup. Pythagorean theorem can be kind of confusing to some, but it is very easy. It's very simple, as long as you don't panic, because now you have seen a triangle there that you're having to deal with. But remember, the theorem says that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the other two sides squared, the sum of the other two sides squared. All right, so the formula we work with is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So I'll do number 2 here, and then y'all can do the rest of these on your own. You don't need me to work out all these problems for you, but I'll just do one just to jog your memory, okay? So I actually think that we did. No, we didn't. It was similar. I won't do number 1 because it's very similar to the one I did in the last video. I'll do number 4. Okay, so it says if the hypotenuse of a right triangle is 15, 15 units long and one side is 9 units long, what is the length of the other side? Okay, so I wrote it down. I did a wonderful right triangle there, and we will work it out. So remember, my formula is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. I have to find b, so I need to get b by itself. So I'm going to subtract a squared from both sides, and that's going to leave me with b squared equals c squared minus a squared. And then you square root both sides to get the b, okay? So b equals the square root of c, which is 15 squared, minus a, which is 9 squared. When you square both of those, you get the square root of 225 minus 81. 225 minus 81 is 144, which leaves me with b equals the square root of 144. What times what gives me 144? And it is 12. All right. So I'll let you do 1, 2, well, obviously 1, but 2, 3, and 5 on your own. Don't let 5 kind of trick you up or make you panic, because it is still a right triangle. You've still made it a right triangle. The businessman purchased a rectangular lot. Okay, so a rectangular lot. Measuring 100 units by 75 units. So 100 units by 75 units. What is the length of a diagonal of the lot? Everybody knows what a diagonal is? That is a diagonal line right there, straight through the lot. So when I drew that diagonal straight through the lot, what did that give me? It gave me 2 right triangles. Right triangle here, right triangle here. So what does that make this diagonal line that I created? The hypotenuse. Okay? So you're going to set the problem up the exact same way. One side is 100, another side is 75, and you have to find the hypotenuse. All right, moving on over here to the review. Okay? So we're going all the way back to the beginning of the book. There we go. All right, so all the way back to the beginning of Algebra 1, not the book, but of Algebra 1, okay? So remember this from 1097 where we're subtracting. And it says subtract the terms algebraically. So what it wants you to do is drop the parentheses and then solve, or add the this wants you to do the positive, to change it to change the problem to a positive. So what you would write in this blank right here is negative 435 plus, open parentheses, negative 145, close parentheses, and then solve it. Okay, so it will look like, your answer will look like this. 435 plus negative 145, and then equals, and then you would solve that, which gives you negative 580. Okay, so when you do that, this one, it's going to be 62 plus parentheses negative 28, and then you solve. All right, so down here where you're solving for x, remember to solve for x, you have to combine like terms. So when I am looking at number 6, I see fractions, and a lot of times when people see fractions, they automatically panic and want to cry. But we're not going to do that, because all we're going to do is get rid of the fraction. We're going to look at our denominator, and we're going to decide what is common between all three of those. 4. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 4 goes into 4 1 time, 4 goes into 4 1 time. Okay, so when I do that, I'm going to say 1/2 x equals 11 over 4 plus 1 over 4 x. I'm going to multiply everything by 4. If I do it to 1, I have to do it to all. So that's going to cancel. 2 times 1 is 2. Don't forget my x equals. Those 4's cancel, giving me 1. So I'm going to bring my 11 down. 4's cancel, leaving me with 1. So plus 1. 2x equals 11 plus 1 is 12. This is 2 times x, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is divide, and x equals 6. And just kidding, because this was an x at the end. But if there wasn't, if that was a 1, then that would have been right. So we're going to subtract x from both sides. So it was supposed to be an x at the end, not the 1. 11 plus x. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. 2x minus x leaves me with x, and then I just bring down my 11. Those cancel. So that's your actual final answer. Okay, so number 7 is going to be the exact same thing. Remember, when you drop your parentheses, can y'all see? All right, so when you drop your parentheses there where it has negative, and then open parentheses, x squared minus x, close parentheses, when you drop that, remember that that negative changes that negative to a positive. You end up with x squared minus x squared, so those go away. And then you're going to multiply 5 times x, 5 times 3. Okay, so book 1099. In this book, we talked about multiplying your binomials and your trinomials. So this was fun. We all enjoyed this book. So I'll do number 8 for you. I'll let you do number 9, and I'll do number 10, okay? So number 8 and this is page 32. All right. So it says a to the third minus 5 times a squared plus 4. So I'm going to do this both ways that you can do multiplying the binomials. Some people liked it this way. Some people liked it better when we put it side by side and multiplied it this way. So I'm going to do it both ways. I prefer the side by side, but I'll do it this way. All right, so I'm going to do x squared times x to the third. So when you're dealing with exponents and you multiply, what do you do with your exponents? You add them, all right? So that's that. Now I'm going to do x squared times negative 5, a squared times negative 5. which gives me negative 5a squared. Now I'm going to do this, move over to the left column. I'm going to do 4 times a to the third, which gives me positive 4a to the third. And then 4 times negative 5, which gives me negative 20. And then I just add this together. So I bring down my a to the fifth. I don't have anything else that is a to the fifth. You want your exponents, you want them to descend. So you're going to next do your positive 4a to the third, negative 5a squared, and then minus 20. All right, so the other way to do that is with it side by side, and this is the full method. You can do this with binomials and trinomials. It all works the same way. You just have to remember that you take your first number, your first term, and you multiply it by everything in the second term. Okay, when you're doing binomials and binomials, it's FOIL, first times the first, outside, outside, inside, inside, last to last. But I'm just going to do it this way just for the purpose of me telling you to do the first times everything in the second. All right, so a to the third times a squared is a to the fifth. And then a to the third times 4 is positive 4a to the third. All right, so I'm done with that first one. I'll move on to the second one. So I have negative 5 times a squared, negative 5a squared, and negative 5 times 4, which is negative 20. So you can do this either way. It's up to you. It doesn't matter. Both ways are correct, whichever way you are more comfortable with. All right, so then I'm going to go over there and I'll do number 10. Okay, so I'll let you do number 9 on your own, and I'll do number 10. So let me write it out real quick. All right, so while I was writing that out, a good idea would have been for you to try to start working it out on your own, but if you didn't, that's fine. All right, so I have negative 3x squared y, and I'm going to multiply it by the first. So negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. X squared times x to the third is x to the fifth, and I don't have a y to deal with, so I just bring down my y. All right, so then I'm going to do that times the second. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth, and y times y is y to the second. And then I'm going to do it by the last. So negative 3 times negative 7, positive 21. X squared times x is x to the third, and y times y is y to the third. So notice your first exponent goes in descending order, and your second term goes in ascending order, goes up. First term exponents go down, second term exponents go up when they're joined together like that. Okay, so now let's go down there to number 12, and you have to do one of these over on page 13 as well. So I'll do the one on page 13, and you can do the one on page 12. So let me write it out real quick. Okay, so we are now dividing. So what we want to look at is just your first term. So when we did this back in the book, several people had a problem with understanding that we only care about this first term. We just want to know, when you multiply 4x by something, will it cancel this? And that's our goal, is to cancel this. We'll work on canceling everything else as we get to it. We just want to cancel the first one first. All right, so 4x goes into 8x to the third how many times? So if you need to, you can write it out over to the side. 8x to the third over 4x. Okay, so 8 goes into 4, or 4 goes into 8 2 times, and x divided by x to the third leaves me with x squared. So that's going to be 2x squared. Now I'm going to multiply 2x squared times 4x is 8x to the third. 2x squared times y is 2x squared y. Now I'm going to subtract. When I subtract, it changes this positive sign to a negative. So 8x to the third minus 8x to the third is 0. And 2x squared y minus 2x squared y is 0. Now I'm going to bring this term down. So I did bring both of them down because I have a binomial here. So I have to divide the binomial by a binomial. All right, so 12xy to the third divided by 4x. 12xy to the third divided by 4x. All right, so 4 goes into 12 how many times? 3. The x's are going to cancel, leaving me with y to the third. So the other thing is that was a negative, so it's negative 3. Bring it up here, negative 3 y to the third. Okay, so negative 3y to the third times 4x is negative 12x y to the third. Negative 3y to the third plus 4 plus y. I think I wrote this down wrong. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's supposed to be a square. That y with your 12 is supposed to be a square, which would have made this one a square. Square, square. Okay, so negative 3y squared plus y is going to give you negative 3y to the third. You're subtracting, so it changes that to a positive and that to a positive, and all of that cancels. Okay, so we're going to stop there with the review, and I'll start back up in the next video and do the remainder of the review, which is a couple of pages, but don't panic on me. We'll get through it. I'll explain everything, and then we'll move on to the self-test.